It's finally time for my next Patreon review. Today we're looking at Cybersix. Cybersix was a comic series first published in 1992 in the Italian magazine Scorpio. It later got published in France and Spain, but also gained a lot of popularity in Argentina, which is where Meridiana, the fictional city where the story takes place, is supposed to be located. It was so popular in Argentina that in 1995 it spawned a live-action TV series. Unfortunately, it's hard to find, though from what I've heard it wasn't very good and was cancelled after only a few episodes. But in 1999, the comic was again loosely adapted into a 13-episode animated series that aired in Argentina, Japan, Canada, and on Fox Kids here in the US. It was written by the comic's creators Carlos Meglia and Carlos Trillo, and beautifully animated by TMS, who had previously worked on many great shows for Warner Brothers. Now, I should mention that I actually wanted to read some of the comic in preparation for this review, but there doesn't seem to be an English translation. Fortunately though, I think I found enough information on the comic online to do a few comparisons, but for the most part, I'll just be reviewing this for what it is. So, let's take a look at Cybersix. So, Cybersix, the main character of Cybersix, is an artificial super soldier created by Dr. Von Richter, a mad scientist who creates genetic monsters in his headquarters, the least subtle castle ever. Geez, Dracula from Castlevania would tell this guy to tone it down. But she escapes from him and hides out in the city of Meridiana, where she fights off every abomination Von Richter sends to stop her or threaten the citizens. All the while trying to figure out if she's truly human and if she has a place in this world. By night she patrols the city, but by day she's undercover as a school teacher, which is where she befriends the school's science teacher Lucas, who becomes her ally and love interest. Which gets kind of interesting considering her disguise is of a male teacher named Adrian, which is brilliant. Seriously, who would ever guess this dweeb is actually a kick-ass female super soldier? And I don't think it's a coincidence that her disguise kinda looks like a scrawny version of Clark Kent. Though this does lead to a few sitcom-esque awkward situations, like when one of her students gets a crush on her disguise. Young lady, you may have just learned something about yourself. What kills me is, as great of a disguise as this is, Lucas never figures it out. He's close to both of them and never questions any suspicious behavior. Come on, man, you're the science teacher. You're supposed to be asking more questions. Though it does lead to some more humorous moments.
Say, you want to see a movie tonight?
What's playing?
A romance.
Sorry, it's not for me.
Do you like to read? I just got a great book on tape. It's about life in ancient Greece and...
So while Von Richter is the main villain of the series, he's not really seen that often. Instead, he sends his son Jose to take command of his genetic goons and try to stop Cybersix. And Jose is kinda great.
Did I say follow your own rhythm? Take your time? No! Hurry, you fools! Catch her, you worthless mutants! Kill her! No! It's not fair! I know, but it's fun.
You know what the world needs? More eccentric child supervillains.
And in the future, you will sit in my presence.
Jose also gives you an idea of the show's sense of humor. It can be pretty funny, even with its serious tone.
Get my clothes!
In the second episode, we meet Data 7, who was formerly a genetic creation Cybersix knew as a child, but after an accident, his mind was put into the body of a Black Panther. But when he recognizes Cybersix from his childhood, he remembers who he is and joins forces with her. Now the team has a badass kitty. In the same episode, we meet Julian, an orphan boy who lives on the streets that Cybersix befriends. Being someone who doesn't know her place in the world, she relates to his situation and looks out for him. It shows her more caring and compassionate side, which is something all great heroes should have. I also like that he and Lucas are actually helpful and aren't just in the way or need saving all the time. It's always nice when the supporting characters are not incompetent and can still help even when they have a clear disadvantage. And Cybersix needs all the help she can get with all the crazy creatures she has to deal with. Either Von Richter or Jose constantly send things after her or the city, so the show kind of follows a Monster of the Day format. And they send out everything from shrieking gargoyles to crazed birds to a giant floating eyeball that steals people's souls. Gotta admit, I haven't seen that one before. In one episode, there's a hot new teacher at the school, and it turns out she's a genetic werewolf. Lucas ends up getting infected, but Cybersix tries to help him remember who he is, but it won't be so easy.
Lucas, help me. I need your help.
Destroy her. Do it for me.
Ugh, stupid sexy werewolf. Man, this remake of The Howling is weird. You know, I'm surprised stuff like this got passed, considering how different the comic is from the show. From what I've read, the comic was way more adult-oriented. For example, Meridiana was depicted as a dark and noir place, almost like Gotham City. But in the show, it's kinda nice. It's got beautiful architecture, the people seem friendly. Looks like the kind of place you'd want to visit. Though I bet they wouldn't mention the genetic freaks in the travel brochure. Speaking of which, it's established that Cybersix requires this green liquid called sustenance in order to survive. She gets it by killing one of the monsters who, like, evaporates and drops a vial of it. I'm unclear if it was supposed to be in their pocket or something, or if it was just kind of floating around in their body. But in the comic, she actually bites their necks and drinks their blood. Yeah, can't show that on Fox Kids. Speaking of which, we never learned much about Von Richter, like his motives and why he has a beef with this city. It's all left a mystery. But it turns out that in the comic, he's... well... okay, once again, I'm not going to say it just in case YouTube demonetizes this video, but I think it should be pretty easy to figure out. I mean, he's German, he's doing crazy experiments in Argentina. Just Google it. I gotta say, they did a great job of adapting the character designs. The comic had a very stylized look with characters with beady eyes or comedically exaggerated features. Though there was one that was a bit weird.
You say that she is the thief. This person you call Cybersix.
You know, I'm all for faithful adaptations and everything, but I still feel that in certain cases, feel free to take some liberties. I mean, this is not cool, right? If so, it's a shame, because this guy is kind of a badass. He's a private eye that Jose forced to track down Cybersix by kidnapping his sister and Julian. He even finds out about her double life as Adrian, but ends up teaming with her, and in the end, he decides to keep her secret.
You're a most interesting person, Cybersix.
Likewise, Yashimoto. But there is one thing about my apartment.
What apartment?
Well, at least we can all agree that the animation is amazing. The movement, the emotion, just look at it. It's gorgeous. And it's consistent throughout the series. A lot of shows often look really good in their first few episodes or their first season, but later episodes won't look as great due to budget or changing studios or something like that. Even other shows that TMS worked on were inconsistent by using other animation studios, and the different styles clashed. I think they did reuse one or two scenes, but I mean no exaggeration when I say this might be one of the best looking animated series I have ever seen. There was an episode with a mud monster, and the animation for it rivals that of Clayface from Batman the Animated Series. I think this is some of TMS's finest work, at least for a TV series. But while the animation was really good, the show still had a few problems. For one, we don't really know anything about anything. I already mentioned before, the show doesn't explain anything about Von Richter or his motives or why he's doing these experiments, but we also don't know a lot about Cybersix either. Like, why she was created, how did she escape, Why did she escape? And most importantly, what makes her qualified to be a literature teacher? What, does she read a lot of John Keats while learning to fight? We don't even know the extent of her powers. Sure, she has all the standard stuff like super strength and heightened agility, but there was this one weird moment when she was fighting the mud monster. She shot this, like, Care Bear beam that calmed it down or something. What is that? No, seriously, what is that? It's never explained and doesn't happen again after this episode. These scenes are kind of sad because she does start to feel bad for it, and it starts to realize that it really doesn't want to hurt anyone, but then her tears have power too? What? What's going on? What, does she have the power of plot convenience? I'm gonna assume this is explained in the comic. Too bad I can't read any of it. Even plot points within the show aren't consistent. At one point, that student that became infatuated with Adrian finds his apartment and sees Cybersix in there. Then Lucas finds out. He gets jealous, of course, but it's pretty clear that Adrian is now somehow involved with all this. You'd think this would be a big revelation for Lucas, but it's never brought up again. After this episode, he never questions any of this, and they're still seen together as if nothing happened. Buy a clue, you half-wit! I mean, seriously, they don't even sound that different. It's obvious they're the same person.
What? Lori knows where I live. Oh, great. Jose is up to something. Let me know if anything else happens. Let's go.
Hey guys, Rob had to step out for a minute, so I'm just kind of filling in for him. My name is Dave. Yes, I'm Dave, and I'm a new and original character for this review series. So, there's Rob. Hey, Rob. I was just, keeping the audience occupied for you while you were out. Oh, thanks a lot, Dave. I knew I could always count on you to fill in whenever I have important things to do. Hey, no problem, man. I just, just trying to help out. Hey, alright, so I guess I'll see you later, Dave. Yeah, sure, man. I'll take it easy. Wow. Alright, I'm back. Man, that Dave sure is such a swell guy, isn't he? Anyway, there's even a lot of wasted opportunity with the show overall. At one point, Jose manages to brainwash some members of the local police into hunting down Cybersix. That'd make a great recurring plot point, but no, it gets resolved in one episode. There's even an episode where Jose and his goons try to rob a bank. Come on, that's such a cliche. In fact, I noticed that the only episodes with any major plot significance are the first two episodes, the last episode, and maybe the second to last. The entire middle of the series is nothing but filler. And it's not that the episodes are bad or anything, they're all good in their own right, but when you introduce an intriguing character with a mysterious backstory, it's kind of expected that you expand on it. Without spoiling too much, the final episode ends on somewhat of a cliffhanger, obviously to set up for a second season. And a second season was planned, which would have hopefully answered a lot of questions, but unfortunately it never happened. And I think it should be obvious as to why. This show was very expensive to make. Yeah, as great as the show looked, it also cost a lot of money to produce, and it quickly ran out. But if they were willing to spend so much money, they must have really believed in this. They even gave it an epic-sounding theme song to complement the great animation.
There's a time when the moon reveals its face through the clouds. Deep in my heart, I feel love so alive.
I wish I could show more, but I'll probably get a strike. I hate YouTube sometimes. On top of that, there was a lot of conflict between the creators and the animation studio, and it all pretty much fell apart after that. I find it kind of sad that one of the best things about this show was what ended up killing it. I guess that's what happens when you want one too many crazy cinematic shots like this. I'm guessing there wasn't a lot of promotion for it either, because I didn't even know of its existence until many years after it ended. And there wasn't any merchandise either. No toys, no video games, nothing. And I mentioned before that I couldn't find an English version of the comic, which leads me to believe that it wasn't released at all, or if it was, it's very rare. You gotta promote your show, you gotta get your investment back. This was a big risk for something this expensive and not known to many people. And that was pretty much the last we've heard of Cybersix. Though there is one more thing that's worth mentioning. In 2000, James Cameron was accused of ripping off Cybersix for his TV show Dark Angel, which had a very similar plot and tone. The creators were actually planning to sue him for it, but it never happened because they didn't have the funds. Though Cameron ended up changing the show a bit for season 2, most likely to distance it from Cybersix, but whether or not he ripped it off is still debated to this day. But ultimately it doesn't really matter because Dark Angel only lasted 2 seasons anyway. This was apparently not a good time for leather-clad female superheroes. Which is a shame because Cybersix is very underrated. Despite some of its frustrating problems, it's still really good. The animation alone makes it worth a watch, but it also has great action, some creative enemies, and fun, likable, and even profound characters. It was definitely a passion project too, which I can definitely appreciate, but perhaps their ambitions were a bit too high. Fortunately, it's pretty easy to find if you want to watch, and I do recommend you track it down. I don't know what the status of this series is today, but I think it should make a comeback. If any show deserves a second chance, it's definitely this one. Things may not have worked out so well here, but maybe one day Cybersix will find her place in the world. And once again, thank you for the donation. This is not getting tossed, this is staying right here. So, between this episode and the previous episode, I actually got another Patreon request, which I'll be reviewing next time. I won't reveal what it is, but let's just say next time we'll be looking at another sort of noir-style crime fighter with a twist. Find out what that is in the next episode.
But sweet girls aren't for you, eh? You hard-fighting, hard-farting, ugly son of a...
Stop flattering me.